Well met, my friends, Nexius here, and today I'm going to help you guys win duels against Affliction Warlocks. To be honest, this is a pretty easy duel, especially if you are running Chi Explosion, but regardless, first things first, we're going to quickly cover which talents and glyphs I would recommend you guys use for this matchup. Celerity is a viable option if you want additional burst damage and healing and a little bit more mobility, since Warlocks have little mobility themselves and don't have any form of slows and roots. However, Tiger's Lust is a good choice for countering them when they portal with Soul Burn. I would also recommend switching healing elixirs for Diffuse Magic. When you're haunted with a full application of dots, I would simply just use Diffuse Magic, which will reduce that damage by 90% for 6 seconds. You can basically make his first haunt basically do no damage. This will help you stay offensively and hopefully win you the duel. I find it to be more useful than healing elixirs in this matchup because usually this duel doesn't last very long, and since healing elixirs is up only every 18 seconds, you don't get as much use out of it compared to, say, Diffuse Magic. For the rest of your talents, simply follow the normal build of Chi Burst, Chi Brew, Leg Sweep, Chi Torpedo, and Chi Explosion. For glyphs, use Touch of Death, Touch of Karma as always, and for the final glyph slot, it's up to you. I personally have 3 different choices. You can run Flying Fist if you need that extra Fist of Fury range, you can run Paralysis if you need to take off any of your Chi Explosion damage, that way you can quickly CC him for the full duration without it breaking, or my personal favorite that I like to run, Glyph of Zen Meditation. Any of these 3 are viable choices, but I prefer Zen Meditation. I generally go with Zen Meditation because Locks like to fear you to Africa, so being able to reduce damage taken by 90% as you run back to him can make quite a difference, especially if you're haunted or dark souled at that moment. Basically, without the glyph, you won't really use Zen Meditation that much unless you're LOSing him, which in most duels, assumingly you're in Element Forest or of course Durotar, you don't really have any LOS, so Zen Meditation isn't really used that often. So basically, using this glyph actually gives it kind of a use. It kind of, in a way, gives you that extra defensive cooldown, which will in the end allow you to be more offensive. So now that we've chosen our build, let's take a look at Affliction's toolkit. We have Haunt. If you're haunted, expect a lot of damage coming your way. You can interrupt this if you like, just be aware that if you choose to interrupt it, you won't be able to stop any fears unless you stun or paralysis. Dark Soul Misery is what the Warlock has for a cooldown. It gives the Warlock 30% haste for 20 seconds, just think of it basically as an Avenging Wrath or any kind of other offensive cooldown. Making his dots do significantly faster damage, it will also cause his Drained Soul to damage faster, which in the end just makes you take more damage from his dots. So basically just get out of there like any regular offensive cooldown, if you can, until it's over. If you have no LOS, which in most cases in duels you won't, use your defensives and interrupt any haunts and drain souls during Dark Soul if you can. Most locks will talent into Archimonde's Darkness, which will give them 2 charges of this cooldown, so be careful with your cooldown usage. Demonic Gateway and Demonic Circle are the Warlock's main tools for mobility. Place your Transcendence at either one of these locations, so when he teleports or uses his portal, you can immediately transfer back on top of him. Keep in mind, Demonic Circle can be used every 30 seconds, so make sure you use your Transcendence every time after you transfer, so you can use it again when he teleports the second time, or any other time after that. The Warlock will usually use Soul Burn to give him increased movement speed and slow immunity after using his Demonic Circle. I would save Tiger's Lust for these moments because without it, he will outrun you since you cannot slow him. Other options would be to stun or paralysis him during this buff. Soul Burn may also be used to instantly summon a demon, making it basically pointless to kill their pet during a duel. Fear is what you'll see the Warlock using to not only keep you away from him constantly, but to also prevent you from interrupting any of his key abilities such as Haunt. Remember, if you Nimble Brew a fear, every other fear for the next 6 seconds will have reduced duration, making Nimble Brew amazing for this fight, especially if you trinket the first one and he continues to fear you afterwards. As for their defensive toolkit, it's nothing too special. Unending Resolve reduces their damage by 40% for 8 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. It's a very long cooldown, and just the simple rule applies. Whenever they have a defensive cooldown up, just don't waste your burst into it and you should be fine. If talented, Dark Bargain basically reduces damage by 50% for 8 seconds. Most locks will talent into Soul Link instead, which gives them a 20% damage reduction at all times as long as their pet is alive. So we've just adjusted our build and our glyphs, and we've studied the Affliction toolkit. Now we need to go into some gameplay and practice our strategy. Alright guys, let's get into the gameplay, but before we actually get into it, for a quick second, I want to discuss my general strategy. My strategy is to stop as many fears as I possibly can, That way, I'm on top of him every second, putting out so much damage that he can't do anything about it. That's the main goal of beating a Affliction Warlock, or an Affliction Warlock, is by sticking to him and staying on him the entire time, stopping all of his fears. If he casts a Haunt or a Drain Life, it's not that big of a deal. It's the fears that you need to worry about, because if he gets a fear on you, he's going to put a lot of dots on you, and it's going to be a lot of damage. So we're going to go into the gameplay here. The first thing I like to do to stay offensive is place my Transcendence on his portal. You're going to see that right here. I place my Transcendence right there, and whenever he teleports, I'm going to teleport with him. So the next thing we do here is I'm going to pause the gameplay, and what you can see here is that he Shadow Fears me, so I cannot stop his Haunt. So he's going to haunt me, which is going to be a lot of damage. So what I like to do here is I keep my trinkets. I don't use them on the Shadow Fear. As soon as I get out of the Shadow Fury, I'm going to use my Diffuse Magic. Now the reason why I use Diffuse Magic is because it removes all of his dots except for Agony. So all of his damage has just disappeared out of nowhere. This allows me 6 seconds to basically generate Tiger Eye Brew for my final burst. So basically, by using Diffuse Magic, you not only take away dots, but you also reduce damage by 90% for 6 seconds. So that's 6 seconds of being able to generate whatever Tiger Eye Brew you need through Chi Explosion. Save your stuns, don't use them right away. And this is exactly why. In this next part of the clip, you're going to see why I save my stuns immediately. So right here, Mortignus starts to cast his fears. So when he's casting his fears, I try to interrupt them. So I'm going to pause the gameplay right here. He ends up juking me. I did not interrupt his fear, which is a problem. So my interrupt is now on a cooldown. So how am I going to stop his fear? This fear is going to be 5 seconds at least, and that's going to be a lot of free time for him to put some damage into me. So what I do here is I decide to trinket, and I'm going to explain in a second. Actually, no, I don't trinket. I actually stun him with leg sweep. Since my interrupt is on cooldown, I leg sweep him with a stun, preventing his fear. Since I leg sweeped him, I decided to take this time to go into my full burst. So we're going to continue the gameplay here. I stun him in the second time with Fist of Fury. He gets out, he teleports, I teleport with him, so he cannot get away from me. We're going to pause the gameplay again here, and you can see he's casting a fear again. This is the only way a Warlock is going to survive against us, and that's by spamming fear to give him time to either heal with Drain Life, or to get so much pressure out immediately that you end up going defensive. The whole point of this strategy is to stay offensive as possible. So what I'm going to do here, there's no way I can stop this. I used my 2 stuns, I used my interrupt, so I have about 2 or 3 choices depending on your race. What I can do right here on the sphere is either 1, paralysis to stop it, 2, shadow meld it to stop it, or 3, I can trinket it. So you can see here that I decide to trinket it right here. So what I do here is I don't actually use my trinket item, or even my human racial. If I was a human, I wouldn't even use my human racial. I would use Nimble Brew specifically. And the reason why you want to Nimble Brew the first fear is because after that first fear gets cleared off of you from Nimble Brew, any fears after that are reduced by 60% for 6 seconds, because that's what Nimble Brew does. So if he goes to fear me, it's only going to be like 2 seconds or so, which is not a big deal, and he applies the DR on it. So we are going to continue the gameplay here, and you can see here he starts to Drain Life. There's nothing he can do. He goes to fear there, and I immediately paralysis, and as you can see there, there's nothing he can do. There's just nothing. So you can see here that's basically how it goes in this first duel. A Chi Explosion duel, if you play it correctly, is absolutely one-sided. I was able to beat him without using Karma or Fortifying. Only Diffuse Magic. That's all you really needed. Not to mention only 1 burst cycle. Only 1 Fist of Fury, and he was defeated. So overall, it should be one-sided as a Chi Explosion player, and if you play it correctly in terms of stopping his fears. That's all you really have to do is 2 things. 1, follow the build, most specifically Diffuse Magic and Chi Explosion. If you want to change anything up, that's up to you. And then, of course, the other tip is to stay offensive, and that's all you really need to do. Now, there is one more tip I want to go into, which is if you're not using Chi Explosion, or for some reason the Warlock stays alive, you may need to use Zen Meditation, and that's where the glyph comes in. If he fears you and you're taking a lot of damage, just simply Zen Meditation all the way back to him, and it will help you as another defensive if you need it. Otherwise, most cases you shouldn't really need the glyph of Zen Meditation. You can go Paralysis if you want, or even Flying Fist. Honestly, Warlocks are just really easy to defeat. Overall, that's the guide on Affliction Warlocks. If you guys have any questions, just leave a comment down below. I will answer them as best as I can. I don't know if Demonology or Destruction will be the next guide. It depends if I end up dueling another Warlock. The guide, honestly, the next guide after this will depend on who I decide to duel, or who challenges me to a duel. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick guide, and I'll see you guys hopefully on my next video. See ya.